reasons so many marriages fail is that the woman is not out to help him. She's using the marriage to help her.
Dr. Tony Evans says wives often misunderstand the intention of the marriage relationship.
She is not cooperating with God's agenda for the family. She uses it as a launching pad for her own purposes.
This is The Alternative with Dr. Tony Evans, author, speaker, and senior pastor of Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship in Dallas, Texas. Some women believe the traditional family structure limits their potential. But today, Dr. Evans explains why God's agenda can empower wives and mothers to do greater things than they ever imagined. Let's join him.
There are two people who come together to be one flesh. And it is simply not enough to tell the man what he must do. He must do it regardless, but it's not enough to say he should do these 5 things and the wife not cooperate with the program. It starts with you, mister. It has nothing to do with what she's doing to you in return, because we're talking about biblical love here. And if you hate me, I'm going to love you. And if you reject me, I'm still going to try to please you, because I am your satisfier. And if you reject my attempts to satisfy you, my attempts will keep on coming. So first of all, a man is to love his wife. Many men have this idea: I go out, I'm the provider, you're the wife, you stay home, you do your job, I do my job, and that's where the problem is. No, the home is your job. The role of the wife is to help the husband do his job well, but she is not to replace your role in the home. Mister, your role is to set an environment in the home of intimacy, a dwelling, not a house, but a home. To dwell together has the idea that you are working in concert with her to create an environment of harmony, to be at home. You know, when somebody comes to visit you and you say, make yourself at home, you mean more than just sit down, you mean be comfortable. It is your job to make sure, as much as humanly possible, that your home is not a place of strife. The worst thing a man can do is marry the wrong woman. There's probably no greater mistake than marrying the wrong woman. Proverbs 27:15 puts it this way: like the slow drip of water on a rainy day, so it is for a man to live in the same house with a contentious woman. Proverbs 21:9 and 25:24 says, it is better to live on the corner of your rooftop than to have to live in the same house with a contentious woman. Nothing can be more miserable than having to spend every day of your life with an evil woman. Somebody said the only difference between a miserable, evil, cantankerous woman and a pit bull is lipstick. And so our concern is what it means to be God's kind of wife. If you are married, this is what you must strive to be. If you are not married, this is what you must orient yourself to be God's kind of woman. As I look through the biblical data, I could narrow this down to really 2 things. We gave the husbands 5 things, but I believe in 2 words I can define the role of a good woman. The first thing that a good wife must do is help her man. Way back in Genesis, when God made Adam, in Genesis chapter 2, someone said that God made Adam, looked at him real hard and said, I can do a lot better than that. And that's when he made Eve. But when he did so, he says in verse 18, it is not good for man to be alone. I will make him a helper suitable for him. I'm going to make someone to come alongside of him who will be corresponding to him, who will work with him to accomplish the divine goal that I have given him. The role of a good woman who wants to see a strong marriage and family is to be the counterpart to her mate in such a way that which God has given the both of them, because the family belongs to both of them, the command of God to be fruitful fruitful and multiply belongs to both of them. The command to manage his creation belongs to both of them. So it is not that she is just some extra on the side. She is an indispensable part of the program. But in order for the program to work, she must be by his side as his helper. One of the reasons so many men are miserable, one of the reasons so many marriages fail, is that the woman is not out to help him. She's using the marriage to help her. She has a faulty view of the relationship. Instead of being his partner, instead of coming alongside to embellish his person, instead of raising his esteem, she has become part of the opposition. She is working against the program. She is not cooperating with God's agenda for the family. She uses it as a launching pad for her own purposes. And when a woman loses sight that God's first expectation of her in relationship to her husband is to be his helper, then a negative atmosphere is created in the home that is difficult to overcome. So the question is, what does a helper look like? Now, the assumption, ladies, is that if God expects you to help your man, the understanding is your man needs help. I'll be the first to admit it, that we as men are not complete in and of ourselves. That's the reason God created women. So if you are finding fault with your man, guess who the helper is? If you're saying my man is messed up, guess who the helper is? If you're saying my man isn't worth a dime, guess who the helper is? You cannot complain that he's not what he ought to be if you're not fulfilling your role as the helper. God made you the helper because he desperately needed help. He desperately needed somebody to come alongside who would be different than him in order to complete him, that them would fulfill the program of God. So when the faults of your husband shows up, there are opportunities for you to fulfill your biblical job description, not simply to fuss and cuss about how messed up he is, but to analyze the kind of helper God has called you to be. In fact, if you are the complete opposite of your husband, wonderful. That means that you can fill in all the blank spots where he needed help. That's not an opportunity for disgust. That's an opportunity for creative assistance. You are the one to help mold and shape him into what God ultimately wants him to be, that you together might carry out the agenda of the home. The description of a divine helpmate is given in prolific detail in Proverbs 31, because a whole chapter was given in the Bible to explain what a helpmate looks like. We're first asked the question, an excellent wife who can find. That Hebrew word excellent means woman of nobility. A noble woman who can find. And ladies, if you want some help in your self-esteem, the Bible says her worth is far above jewels. Many ladies have a low view of themselves, which makes them a weak wife. When you look at yourself as an expensive diamond, then you're going to act like an expensive diamond. If you only look at yourself as substitute jewelry, you're going to live like substitute jewelry. And you know what substitute jewelry is? Feel your earrings that you have on right now, or your necklace. You know it can be made to look like the real thing when it's not necessarily the real thing. But Proverbs 31 is talking about a for real kind of woman. Not a plastic woman, not a woman that's so made up you don't know what the real thing looks like. He's talking about an authentic woman, and he says when a man finds this kind of woman, he's got a piece of jewelry that's expensive and of great value. And what is the hallmark of this woman? Look at the end of verse 12. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. Now, ladies, let me ask you a question. If I ask your husbands, what good are you to him, would he have an answer? Can he trace? Can he look at? Can he identify? Can he measure how you are constantly, perpetually, ongoingly, ferociously, determinatively looking out for his good? Can he raise the point if asked the question, every time this woman wakes up, she is thinking about how to make me a better man? And if that is not, hear me now, your number one agenda item, you are not a Christian wife. You may be a bed partner, you may be a cook, you may be this and you may be that, but a Christian wife seeks the good of her husband all the days of his life. That is, she wakes up, and just as he's to wake up loving and honoring and cherishing you, you are to wake up and ask, what good can I be to him today? Now this is very, I will, brother. This is a very practical thing, because one of the first ways she helps her husband is financially. Follow this. Look at verse 13. She looks for wool and flax and works diligently with her hands. She's like a merchant ship. She brings her food from afar. That is, she shops at Sack and Save. Verse 16. She considers a field and buys it from her earnings. She plants a vineyard. Verse 24. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies belts to the tradesmen. There's this warped view of Christian women that if you're a Christian woman, you sit home and play the piano all day with white gloves on. That you somehow throw your college education into the garbage, and if you're going to be Christian, that there is no excellence, no productivity, no skill. No, this woman who helps her husband is skilled. She has a real estate license. It says she goes out and she buys a field. Here's a woman who's skilled. Here's a woman that saves money, invests money, and spends money wisely. But she's doing it to the good of her husband. This is not like a lot of our modern women who are building their own career with their own money in their own bank account where they write their own checks. That's not the godly woman. Because the godly woman, while she uses her skills, uses her gifts, uses her college education, always brings it back home for the embellishment of the home and the enhancement